This is
I
what
feel
it
like
sounds
you're not listening.
That's so funny.
Are we rolling?
Not yet.
Almost.
Okay.
It says we're live, but
I gotta get ready. This is my first.
Okay.
I just started the
Hurry up!
process.
30 minutes. 3, 2, 1, 0.
It takes a bit for it to
It's like
totally.
3, 2,
It takes
1.
a bit for it to kick in completely. So we'll just wait until it does that.
So autistic.
Hey, you know there's actually a funny story that I used to do. Every time when the old Canada starts, I used to go like, "Oh Canada."
That's okay.
You're not camera shy, all right?
That's awesome.
Oh, we're starting live.
I'm just gonna double check that we're live. Takes a bit for it to start sending the signal.
And it's cold.
I hope.
Yeah, maybe the wireless is cold.
Well, you could show your mom and dad. You're on TV.
Okay, then that means we are officially live then.
Should we all say hello?
We should. Okay, so we're all good there? Okay, excellent. All right, so hello, people on YouTube and everyone who's watching at home. We hope there's a million of you out there. And welcome to our first live stream session from the Sioux Lookout Public Library. My name is Mike Laverty. I'm the assistant and children's librarian. So it's live. It's our first time doing this. So if anybody out there is living in the land of YouTube, if you can chat with us, send us an email. If you can't hear us, if things are shaky, let us know. There should be a little gear on the bottom right-hand side of your YouTube browser. If you can't hear us, or you can kind of see us, click on that and pick a lower resolution. So if you're looking at 480, maybe knock it down to 280, and especially if you're on a low signal. But if you've got a high-speed internet connection, you should be able to see us. So today we're doing an art workshop, and before we hear from our artist, I'd like to introduce a teacher from Sioux Mountain School. Her name is Sioux Mountain Public School. Her name is Katie Burch, and she will tell you a little bit about herself and why she's here today.
So I'm here because I have a fabulous group of students that I work with. They're right behind me here. And we are all part of a school board that is a super high-tech school board. All students have access to netbooks and laptops and iPads, and we have all of us have a big interest in digital technologies, and we also have a big interest in art. I'm the instructional technology teacher for our school board, so I work with students and teachers how to use technology in their classrooms and in their everyday lives. So that's why I'm here, and we're super excited because we love Gabby, and we know she's a fabulous artist, and we're hoping we can learn some great skills from her today.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And next up,
Just read it.
we've got. So next, I'd like to introduce Balena Anderson. She works with Gabby. She's an educator with many years of experience. So I'd like her to let us know about who she works for and why she is here today. So good morning.
Good morning. Moitié, bonjour, Annie. Those are the languages. My name is Balena Anderson, and I'm originally from Casablanca, and I taught 23 years in Casablanca. And I'm with Kwaiiciwyin Education Resource Centre for the last 8 years now. And my job title with Kwaiiciwyin is the immersion specialist. And I work with teachers in communities, 23 communities. So mainly I help them with their teachings, and I work with parents, teachers, and children. So I travel to those communities.
Okay, excellent. And I think a lot of people may not realize that the old KC, or Knights of Columbus Hall, is now your base of operations. And there is a gigantic printing press in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
And you're producing all your own resources.
Yes.
And sending them all across the world.
Yeah, I do write children's storybooks too, and I'm also the illustrator and the writer of the books. And so I write them in Ojibwe, Cree, and Ojibwe with the help of these language people too. But I also speak and understand the language because of my grandparents that raised me. They spoke Cree and Ojibwe and Ojibwe. My parents were speaking Ojibwe. So that really helps me do my job and how I was raised. Yeah, I also do children's storybooks. I mean, songs.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did O Canada too in the language. And let's see, I do lots of things. I do translations.
Okay, excellent. And we've got a few of your books here at the library too. Right?
Yeah, and I also do TPR.
Excellent.
The teaching methodology and language.
And we'd like to see more of that happening
Yeah.
here at the library. So stay tuned, people of YouTube. there'll be more to come. So this is just the beginning, right? So
Yeah.
we'd like to.
So Kwaiiciwyin started back in 2002. It was called Academic Readiness Project, and the reason for that is because the leaders of the communities up north found out that their students were coming out with 4 to 5 grades behind. So they started up they called it Academic Readiness Project. And Kwaiiciwyin was under NNEC. So, and then later on it became standalone. So that's where we are now. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Now, would you be able to introduce your co-worker and our artist of the day?
Okay. This is Gabby, and she's an artist. She's very, very creative, and she does a lot of my books and other books, and she's just a fantastic work with you.
All right, excellent. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So exciting.
Yeah, so we're very, very pleased to have Gabby Cosco with us today. I went to school with Gabby again as one of our young students said way back in the 90s, back in the ancient history. So
You're dating us.
yes, exactly. But even as about a year ago, I was aware that Gabby was an artist. So I had no idea. I just saw things she was posting online, and her and I have been chatting online, talking about doing something like this for probably about half a year. So it's great to see it finally happen. So it's amazing to see an artist in the library. And our new slogan at the library is "You can do that here." So we're hoping that this session can inspire you out there watching to be an artist, because as Pablo Picasso said quite famously, everybody's an artist. They just maybe haven't got there yet. So I'd like to turn it over to Gabby, and just to start things off, just to talk about where you are today, and maybe a little bit on how you got there as an artist.
Great. My name's Gabby Cosco, as you've heard, and I am a graphic designer, illustrator, artist, digital artist, sometimes traditional as well. I have a background in web design, social media, and all that fun stuff. I'm from Sioux Lookout originally. When I was younger, like Mike said, when we went to school here in Sioux at Queen Elizabeth District High School, there wasn't a lot in town in terms of artists doing a lot of workshops, sharing their stuff. places for kids to go to do art. A lot of the stuff I had to do was on my own, so I spent a lot of time in my room creating stories and comic books with my fresh set of markers and printing paper. And there wasn't an art program at high school at the time, so I didn't actually touch a computer or do any traditional art training until I went to college. So I left Sioux, studied music for a bit, decided I needed a day job, and decided to be a starving artist instead of a starving musician. So I took graphic design, which introduced me to Max, Photoshop, Creative Suite, all those kinds of programs, which I just fell in love with right away. I took a program for 4 years, and then I luckily got a job right out of school as a children's book illustrator in Barrie, Ontario. So I was down south, which up here down south is Southern Ontario. For those, it's not the States. I get a lot of people saying that. For me, anyway. But yeah, so I've been in the industry for about 7 years. I've had a lot of really great jobs. Luckily, like I said, I've been able to be a kids' book illustrator for companies, which is nice. I've always had a nice paying gig and a company with a big printer, like Mike said, to print off my books or their books that I illustrate. So very fortunate. Bless you, Lauren.
On that note, is there any questions from our audience anywhere?
About how I do what I do.
Any comments or questions? Anything you'd like to add?
So you guys have been working for 7 years, right? Or am I wrong?
Have
No,
I been?
you're right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've been working in the industry for about 7 years.
Ah.
Yes.
So you always sing, right?
I did. Yes, I sing as well. Yeah. It's a fact.
But you chose art.
I did choose art. Yes. If there was always something I did, I found it really cathartic and fun. So it was, when I decided not to pursue music as a career, I decided to go with art. And graphic design, when I was looking into it, was kind of like the art that paid.
Here's another question.
Sure.
What is the first program you used?
The first program I used, like on the computer?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. The first program I used, I think, was Illustrator. And it was in graphic design school. We had to design a chart using one of the Creative Suite programs, and it was up to us to decide which one we wanted to use, and I went with Illustrator.
And here's one question.
Sure.
Which book did you make with somebody?
Which book did I make with somebody?
Yes.
At Kirk?
Or you mean the first book?
The first book. Oh, okay. The first book I did with the company I worked for in Barrie, I have to really think back, was a series called Eco the Eagle.
Eco the Eagle?
Eco the Eagle, which was about a ginormous eagle that stole children from their bedrooms and took them on environmental adventures. So it was kind of a challenge to make that seem fun and exciting and not terrifying. To have a child snatched from their bedroom by an eagle. And actually won an award from Xerox for being an environmentally friendly series.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah.
I went to an award ceremony in Toronto.
Here's,
My coworkers.
Here's
it was
one.
fun.
Which person that you first met
Mm-hmm.
when you first started making books?
Yeah.
Famous person, you mean, Doug?
Yes.
A famous
Met
person.
any famous people?
Huh. That's a good question. I can't really think of any to be sure. I think I did meet an author. Her name was Kelly Armstrong. She writes novels. She's one of my favorite authors.
Oh.
But I did meet her. That was really cool because I love her books and I love her storytelling. And it's for adults though, not for kids. But that was pretty. That was the first author I met live in person.
Hey, here's something. Have you seen a book called The Hours in the Family?
I haven't.
What about Copper Sunrise?
No. You'll have to show me these books when you come in on Tuesday. All right, bring them in.
Do any of you girls or Tristan have any questions?
Not yet.
Is there a certain kind of category you like to draw in, or do you just draw whatever?
Oh, that's a good question. I do kind of stick to, you want to pass those around? Sure. Digital art. I try and do a little bit of everything and be kind of a bit of a chameleon. Some artists like to have a style and then just stick to it, but I kind of like to try different things. It's probably a little bit from my graphic design background. Where you kind of tailor your art towards the target audience. So yeah, I don't stick to anything in particular. I kind of go with what the book's about, what I feel would be good. If I was doing a children's book per se, like for young children, I would illustrate it much differently than I would do, say, a graphic novel that was for older kids, maybe young teenagers and preteens. So I kind of try to gear it towards my target audience.
Here's one.
Sure.
What is your first job you did
The first job I did was
before you become an artist?
before I became an artist. Oh, good question. I worked in Sioux Lookout through high school as a florist at this flower shop in town called Country Florist's Gift Boutique. And I worked for Mrs. Morgan and Mr. Morgan, and I did all the flower arrangements in the back. So I was very fortunate to have a creative job when I was very young, which was
How long did it take to stay in to become an artist? How many years does it take in college?
In college, good
or
question.
And university to take to be an artist?
My program was 4 years. I took a year of a program called in Georgian College in Burch, Ontario, called Art and Design Fundamentals, which was a year program because I was from a small town and we didn't have a really strong art program. I didn't have a portfolio, so I was able to take this 1 year certificate program where I could test out all of the art and design courses at Georgian. And then because I took that program, I automatically got into one of their 3-year programs, and I took graphic design. And you can take a 2-year program, which is more print-based, or a 3-year program, which is a little bit more creativity-based. So I took that. So I went to school for a total of 4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
Excellent. Now, excellent. I love the questions. Now, I want to move on to the next phase of what we'll be doing here today. So, if you could just talk about just one of the books that you've done, maybe even I think that one's quite recent, right?
Yes, these are all recent. So.
If you could just tell us briefly about the process of starting from an idea to actually putting it in the book, and just as much as possible, just show us the illustrations you've worked on, and then from there we're going to have a look at we're going to do a live demonstration of how art is made.
Cool. Orion, can you go grab me those papers in the back there? Thank you. Okay. So generally when I get a book, I just get a typed up page of words. Luckily, I've always worked for companies that allow me a lot of creative freedom, so there's not a whole lot of this is what we're looking for, this is what we want, here's the page, have fun. So, which is really nice as an artist and illustrator, that's kind of what you want, right? Oh, perfect, thanks guys. Yeah, you guys are awesome, thank you, okay. So I generally just kind of read it, get a sense for it, a feel for it before I do anything, and then I start, depends on the book, but generally what I'll start doing is a storyboard. So this is like a little map of my my story, where it's going to go. You guys all see. Kind of what kind of ideas I have for it. I generally start rough thumbnailing very quickly. Just picking out phrases, deciding really roughly what I think they could look like, whether I want to do like a single page with words or a double page spread, that kind of thing. It just gives me an idea as I go along where I'm headed. So when I get pulled away with another project, I can come back to it, go, where was I? Oh, right, I was here. So I can just pick up and illustrate from there. And I don't lose sort of my spark for the story. And then I'll start drawing away. So depends on the book, but I'll start big or small, rough or really refined. This is kind of a rough drawing of a polar bear. This page is the more refined version. There's yet another rough version. Thanks, Sarah. And then I'll refine. You want to hold this for me? And then I'll refine it down. Once I get it into this stage, I'll bring it into the computer. And then I will paint it up in Photoshop, create the black lines. Thanks, bud.
That's good, Ryan. Yeah.
And then I'll bring it into InDesign, add the type, the logos, anything else that needs to be done. And then put it all together, and it becomes a book. Kirk also has this really great process of printing. We have Xerox 770, which is It's a great printer, very environmentally friendly, where we push print once I'm done PDFing it and all that stuff, and it will just spit out a book just like this, and then all we have to do is crop off the ends, and it's done. So there's very little waste. A company I was working for, Chemicals Graphics Group in Barrie, my first illustration job had one as well, and they won a couple of awards from Xerox as well for having this machine because it's so environmentally friendly, and I didn't know we actually had one in Sioux Lookout, which is awesome, until I started working at Kirk, and I was like, you guys have one of these, this is amazing. So it's really, really awesome that we have such cutting edge material here in Sioux Lookout. So for anyone in Sioux Lookout who's watching, and maybe from other organizations or schools, it's technology we are trying to help the community with and get out there so everyone can use. So come on and see us and talk to us about that. So that's kind of my process, but we kind of skipped a little bit the digital painting side.
Yeah, so now we've got a couple of computers and a gigantic tablet set up over here. So, yeah, if you want to maybe just set up yourself on that chair, just so we can, if you want to push your chair back over there.
Oh, Ryan, do you want to go put those papers back where they were, bud? And then we'll pull your chair back so we can
There. You should be able to get a bit closer.
Come sit here, bud. We can watch from here. It's easy to look at. Try and go away.
That's perfect.
Nice. Okay, so this is my my work setup. It's beautiful and I love it. This wonderful piece of machinery here is called a Wacom Cintiq. It's really cool. There are lots of different versions of tablets. I have two over there as well, which I'm going to get the kids to play with as well. I'll let them play with this one too. But it enables me to paint like an artist would on canvas or draw like pen and paper. So I get a little bit more of a natural, organic feel when it comes to lines, painting, blending, all that fun stuff. So I will show you guys how I create a digital painting. So generally what I do first, like I showed you, is I will do up a sketch. Can be on like really nice sketch paper, just like printer paper. So we get to use what you got, right? So I'll just take a picture of it in in my photo booth on my computer. I don't really need it high res when I'm working to create digital art because it's just going to be like the skeletons of my digital art. So what I'll do in Photoshop, I'll get rid of all this stuff, is I'll bring it in to my Photoshop program. You guys can see. Put a new layer on it. So the nice thing about working in Photoshop is that it enables you it enables you to draw like it's pen and paper. So, and then you can also take lines away, like erasing. And painting, you can take whole layers out because you have the layers, blending layers and stuff like that, and blending modes. You can use that kind of stuff as well, which I really like, as opposed to doing traditional painting. So, right on top of my drawing, which you can see there, I will do black lines. Unfortunately, I didn't make sure my tablet was set up and ready to go, so I might have to reconfigure it, but for the sake of doing it online, we'll just go with it. So once I have that all done, I'll draw all the lines like I would if I was doing it on paper, and then I'll add a background, which I generally do, and get rid of that layer. And then add some color to it. And once I get that stage, I start painting it. I'm going to switch to another illustration I just finished so you guys can sort of see the painting concept here. There's a lot of different ways to paint. A lot of artists use blending, some use gradients, some use flat colors, which they then select and then use one or the either or. I use kind of a combination of both, of blending techniques and gradients, just whatever makes it look kind of cool. And I also have sort of, as you can see here, like a little bit of an animation style on this girl. So if we go into the color, if I take all that away, so you'll see the black and white, and then the layers, if I reenact the color, of how I color her up. So I put each, some artists work flat, which saves a lot of space. I like to put things on layers just so that I can, and then I'll save it flat after I'm done, just so I can edit. If something's not working, I look at it later and I'm like, oh, that looks a little wonky. I can go back and fix it. You can be perpetually fixing digital art. That's the thing about it. So
just to interrupt, this outline started completely digital?
Completely digital, yeah.
So you never, are you ever importing, like say a pencil sketch and then dealing with that, or are you always?
No, I don't, I used to do that kind of thing, where you like just clean it up and go from there, but I find that in the computer, I can adjust any errors that I do pencil-wise. Like I can see it a little bit, like a lot of artists tend to skew one way or the other, so digitally you can like correct that, and you can do a bunch of warping things, but I find it depends on how detailed the pencil sketch is. But if I'm intending for it to be, outlined and then painted, I do it that way. But
you've got a question right here.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
What about this one that you did?
Yes, I did do that girl as well, and she was done the same way. So I did her up, and then I added all this stuff in. So this is a series that I'm working on. I'm intending to make it a series of 7.
And,
so this is 1, 2, and 3.
And another question.
Sure.
And every time you make something, you always add this.
Yeah. I do, elements like that are good if you're doing a series to add sort of continuity when the subjects aren't always the same. So that's fun to do that.
These are going to be cover images for books? So these are.
I'm hoping to make them a poster series.
Poster series,
yeah, which will hopefully also be available for iPhone, iPad,
Very good.
and
Okay.
desktop wallpapers. So yeah, so that's really cool. Any other questions about this guy? I know I wasn't able to show you like myself actually painting, but.
So you're making like a poster
series.
What is the recent one that you're doing right now?
So I'm working on this girl here, which you can see is just the line art's done with her. So she's the girl I'm working on.
What are you going to do after her?
I'm hoping to do the next 4, but because I work at Kirk, I have a kind of many hats, so I also toggle between this, doing graphic design work and stuff like that. So, I do what I can to illustrate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we'll do is we'll sign off and we'll move on to the next phase and allow these young artists to kind of get to work hands-on, and we'll sign off on our live session. But if you could give us any closing thoughts, especially to maybe to a young artist or even someone who's young at heart and wants to get started as an artist, will be some first steps to take and things that have worked for you, and just a little shout out to all the other artists out there.
Young artists. All right. I guess my advice would be to just draw as much as you can. Draw for fun. Draw anything. Draw the ideas in your head. Draw stories. And long term, it would be don't ever lose that sort of young artist inside yourself, because another Pablo Picasso quote is that the artist is the child that never that never went away, or something like that. I think it was more what he said, that never died. But so always keep that sort of childlike, artistic, creative influence. I think that's really important. Like when you're 4 and all you really like to do is finger paint and draw, and you don't really care what it looks like, just keep that about you and keep doing it. And remember, you don't have to draw like photorealistic stuff to be an artist. That's one kind of art. There's lots of different kinds of art and lots of different kinds of styles. So if you want to be an artist, it's something you're passionate about, just go for it, try different things until you find what works for you, and never lose that spark and keep on learning.
Excellent. All right, thank you. I'm going to give a round of applause. Well, now there you go. So you can feel free to experiment and
Yeah, we can get you guys up here trying this.
try out some of the new software.
I didn't check to see if this thing would be done.
Hey Gabby, how
Yeah.
long does one, like, let's say you, from start to finish,
Yeah.
if you put a time to it,
Yeah.
how long would you take?
It depends. Generally, it takes me 6 to 8 hours to finish a digital, like a full. And it depends on like how detailed I want to get. So if I just want to do like quick color, flat color, not maybe like a couple hours. If I want to do like really high, high detailed rendering, it takes me about 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like as an artist, you get faster and faster at that once you kind of nail down your style and what you like to do most. Let me start this guy because
Here's another show. You're going to make each one.
yeah.
Just play with the illustrations.
Yeah, so these are all them.